Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's do a complete beginner's guide for Banished, shall we? This is actually an older game that I got into late to the party, and it was on sale. I purchased it, and I have loved it. I mean, it took over my life. I've been playing it a ton. It is such a good builder. However, it is hard up front. You can starve, you can freeze, you can, completely lose your little settlement if you're not careful. And so I thought I'd take everything I learned from playing the game and from reading a bunch of guides on Steam, and also from streaming the game and getting comments either in real time or from users in the comment section of my YouTube videos for my Let's Play, and put it together into a package to help get new players into this game. So maybe you've never played Banished before, a type of game like this before, or you did play it and you bounced off because you found it too difficult. This is going to be the guide for you. What I'm going to do is start a brand new game of Banished so you can play along with me and learn the basics of the controls, the UI, some tips and tricks, some strategies, and how to interpret some of the systems in the game that aren't necessarily clearly explained. This is not going to be a guide about min-maxing and perfectly optimizing everything mathematically. You can play Banished that way, and people have broken this down into just incredibly advanced strategies, which are like wondrous to behold, but in my opinion, overwhelming for a brand new player. So instead, I'm going to kind of try to talk about optimization in a more casual way to help give you the fundamentals, and then if you want to take it to that next level with a subsequent playthrough and learn the high-end tricks of the game, that you can do that, or play however fits your style. So we're going to do a new game, and it could be whatever random town name you want. We're going to call this Tutorial Town. Oh, I don't have enough room for all of that, so I'm going to call it Incomp Tutorial. That's fine. And this is the map seed right here, so your map will look different than mine because it generates a random map. However, if you want to play the exact map, you can just enter this seed. Now, we're going to play on valleys instead of mountains. Medium terrain size is fine, and climate fair is okay. And I'm going to turn disasters off. Now, this is, potentially controversial. Some people love playing with disasters. It's a part of the game. However, I think for your first settlement, you might want to play with no disasters like we're going to do, so that you don't lose everything and you don't necessarily know enough about the game to get it back. It really feels bad if you've put a lot into a settlement and it all goes away. Now, your mileage may vary. If that doesn't bother you, you like the challenge, then go for it. Turn them on. But I think for your first time, just go no disaster so you can get further into the game and then really learn it as you play. Starting conditions is going to be just medium, because I think that's a nice way to do it. You can go easier if you want, but medium will give you a good taste for the game without being too punishing. So let's dive right in. All right, so the very first thing that I'm going to do is push the space bar, because that will pause the game. And I will mention, when you start on the menu screen, there are some helpful tutorials that you can play through to learn the controls, the camera movements, the UI, and some suggestions for like how to start your settlement. And I think they're super useful. I played through them, but some of the advice I actually didn't like the emphasis on fishing, for example. But we'll get into talking about what we want to do by just starting a fresh city, and you can play through those tutorials if you like. Now, you're going to see, as I kind of look down on my settlers and our barn and our supplies, the UI for this game is incredibly minimal. However, I think it's best played with a lot of, at least two of the windows is how I kind of play it normally, open, so that you can manage things. And this is very much a game about management. What is Banished? Banished is a builder, like Anno, like SimCity, like more contemporary builders, Manor Lords, Foundation, things like that. However, it is a survival builder. And the kind of distinction there is that you can very easily die from starvation or from people freezing and things like that if you don't have the right supplies. Whereas in many other builders, starvation isn't really, on the table. That's kind of like very easy to accommodate. So what we're going to do is try to keep a focus on that. It's not as brutal as Frostpunk. And honestly, once you get into it and know how to feed people, this is a pretty enjoyable game that's not overly complicated, although it may seem like that at first. So as I look down, you can zoom in and out on our map using the camera. You can scroll the camera around with WASD, and you can tilt the camera or rotate it with Q and E. And I like to kind of zoom in and just look around. It's honestly, even though this is an old game, it's really beautiful. It's also worth mentioning I'm not playing with any mods. This is the vanilla version of Banished because it's the most typical version that you would boot this game up with. There are a lot of cool mods out there that do quality of life things and fundamentally change the game. But I think for your first time, probably just play it with no mods and then see which ones are appealing to you. If you have mods you'd like to recommend, please put those in the comments below. That'd be great. So when we look down, we see that we have this storage barn. And one of the great things about Banished is you can left click to get super detailed information about just about everything on the map. Here's our stockpile. Here's a storage barn. Here is a citizen. And when you click on anything, you can read this information to understand, basically what's going on. However, there is a good in-game guide that you can access by pushing tools and reports, which is this gear on, and you see in the bottom right, there's a very, very small UI bar, and you can push this gear or push F1 to open this, which opens up another ribbon of buttons, and then the question mark is this reference manual that you can search, and you can get even more in-game documentation about items, systems, etc. It's incredibly helpful. One of the great things about this is most of the content in Banished just makes sense. You click on it, you can see it, you're managing numbers and reports, and it's all very logically and elegantly designed. So as we're looking down here and I click on my storage barn, you'll see what's inside the storage barn, the inventory. So, I have 30 hide coats, which will keep our people warm during the winter. I have 40 iron tools, which are necessary for most labor. And I start the game with some food, which is 1,800 potatoes. I also have this stockpile right here, which I can click on, and you see that they're giving me 200 firewood, 60 stone, 40 iron, and 120 logs. And all of these materials are stored here in the stockpile, and logs, stone, iron, firewood, they don't actually go in the barn. This is for other types of inventory. So like raw materials go here, and then food, crafted materials, tools go in your barn. And it's worth mentioning, and this is something I immediately worried about because I'm used to playing RimWorld and stuff like that. None of these items can spoil because they're outside. So even though your firewood, stone, iron, logs, they're outside, there's no durability on them. They will not go bad. And in fact, nothing goes bad in this game. These potatoes will never spoil. None of this stuff will go bad. It will just get consumed. You will go through iron tools and coats over time, but you won't lose them to storage. So it's a wonderful thing to know because you don't have to stress or worry about that. So we have some food, but you could see that we aren't going to have enough food to survive. And in fact, we have no places for these people to live. All of these yellow circles with the home icon above their heads mean that they don't have a home. And in fact, if you click on this citizen right here and you mouse over this, it'll tell you what this icon means. It means they don't have a home, so they're upset. This is the details about Rake, this person right here. It gives you a score on their health, which is full, and happiness, which is full. It tells you their gender, It tells you how old they are. And I mean, this is a child, they're 1, and what their, their clothing description, if they have a tool, and what they're doing right now. In fact, Rake is finding clothing. He's going to go in the barn and get some clothes on, probably because he is chilly or has, ragged clothing. If you go to his inventory, he has nothing. He's carrying nothing. He's got absolutely nothing. And there's some other buttons here at the upper right where you can click on these buttons to find information about, where they work, where they live. You can center the view on them. You can pin them. You can even follow them around camera-wise if you want to just watch somebody. And you can close these windows by pushing X, or escape kind of brings up the menu, which will close some or all of the menus that are sub-menus like that. But the best way is just to click the X button right there. So we need to get these people homes. We need to get these people food. We need to start gathering resources. These are all the concerns. Your top priorities in this game are to make sure everybody has enough food, they have shelter, and that they're warm. So we're going to need to have a food engine. We're going to need to have a place for them to sleep and stay warm. We're going to need firewood for them to burn to stay warm in their homes, and we're going to need clothes on them to keep them warm. Then we're going to build out from there as we go. So when I said that it was a good idea to bring up some menus, let's do that first to get some information on the screen, because although this looks good, visually, there's not much content for us to know what's happening. And as you can see, I still have it paused. It's one of my favorite things about the game is that you can just pause it at any time to really take stock of what's going on, and then unpause it with the space bar when you're ready to go. So I'm going to click Tools and Reports again, this gear, and I'm going to bring up this button to the far left, which once you push the function keys to get into these categories here, running along the bottom, F1 to F9, and then you can use the sub-menu commands by pushing the number keys, as they correspond up here, 1 through 9. So if I push this general statistics about the town, the far left button in this sub-menu, it brings up a window that you can move these windows around by grabbing them, but I always keep this in the upper left, which gives you some great overview information on your town. Here's the name of our town. Here's the date. It's March 1st. This is one of the things that you're always going to be checking, which is your population. It is adults, students. Once we have a school, we'll educate our children into students, but right now we don't have that, so we have no students. And how many children we have. You always want to keep track of your population to make sure that you're growing at a reasonable rate. You don't want to have too many young people, because then things are going to perhaps grow so much that your food system won't be enough to provide for that. But you don't want to have too few children such that you can't reproduce, because unlike many other games, the primary way that you get more people to live in your settlement in Banished is from your people having families and children. You can get immigrants later in the game, but it's not for a while once you build some structures, and it's not necessarily super reliable. Your main way to get people is through reproduction. So you don't want to reproduce too fast such that you can't keep up with it, but you don't want to reproduce so slowly that like all of your people are 100 and you don't have anybody who can have kids anymore. So we're going to kind of balance that and keep this at a reasonable rate. This is our starting number, 10 adults and 7 children, so we can't really do anything about that now, but that's fine. Then it tells you, how many supplies you have here, and this is indicating supplies that are put into barns and stockpiles. So they have to be in a barn or a stockpile to be tallied on this list. It also gives you an overall view of your citizens' health and their happiness, so that, it's not necessarily each individual, but it just gives you at a glance how healthy everybody is, how happy everybody is, and it tells you the temperature. Right now, I have it in Fahrenheit. So this is really cold, so no wonder Rake is going to get some warm clothing. It's freezing. So now we have this window open, which is incredibly helpful. But another window I love to play open is the Assign Jobs to Citizens panel, which is number 5. So if I click this, it opens up my Professions window. And this is where you can start telling people what jobs you want them to do. You can only assign adults to jobs in this way. The children will do some small stuff. They'll carry stuff around, things like that. They can do some small tasks, but you can't actively assign them to things. But the adults you can. And so that means right now everybody is a laborer. So a laborer, it says here again, mouse over most stuff in Banished to know what it does. They perform easy work like clearing areas, moving produced goods to storage. They're just like hauling stuff around, basically. You always want to have at least one laborer assigned, because if somebody dies who is in a profession, a laborer will immediately and seamlessly step into that profession to fill in. But if you have no laborers, then nobody's going to do that job, and it will, get behind on its production schedule. You also just want to have laborers in general to be moving things around, chopping down trees, clearing out areas, etc. So right now I'm fine with this distribution of our labor, but we really haven't given anything specific for them to do. So I'm going to begin by building some farms. So we'll not talk about all of these buttons. We're just going to kind of bring them up as they become important. In this Tools and Reports button here, there's a bunch of really, really useful stuff. But I don't want to overwhelm you with too much info. We'll kind of bring it up as we go. And I'm going to click on the apple here, which is food production, F6, and you see in the sub-menu, I've got grow crops, build an orchard, have a pasture, fish, a hunting cabin, and a gatherer's hut. And these are all ways to get food. We're going to just build some farms to start out. And we do have water right here as I move the camera down, where we can catch some fish if we want. And we will build one fishing hut, but we're not going to go into that too heavy because there's much better ways to get food than that. So I'm going to click on the crop field, and what we want to do is, again, your mileage may vary with how much you want to pre-plan your city and your layout. And as you get better at the game and you've played it more and more, you can, even from the very beginning, have a really clear goal with your end game and how your town is going to look. What we're going to do is just build some farms very, very close to this initial storage barn. And this is going to kind of allow us logistically to have a short travel time between hauling stuff into the barn for food when it's done and our workers. And then also it'll save some space that we might use for a town center later when we want to place a market, which is going to better distribute our goods. So these are not going to be the farms that we will have always, because we probably don't want them in the town center. But for now we have nothing, so it's okay to kind of block out some area. So I'm going to go ahead and build a crop field that is 7x7. And 7x7 is the largest that you can make a crop field, as far as I understand it, for one person to work it optimally who is not educated. If they've been educated, they work 30% harder so they can work a bigger field. But starting out, we don't have a school. None of these people are educated. A 7x7 is what we want. So I'm going to build a 7x7 crop field right here. Now, you don't have to do this. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm going to link my Let's Play down below. I had no idea what I was doing. It was my first time playing. And I just built a farm that was just, I eyeballed it, and it worked out fine. It wasn't optimal, but it was fine. And that's really one of the main takeaways I want you to have with Banished, is as long as you're not dying, it might take you a little longer to get there, but you don't have to get it exactly right to have a great time with this. And for your first time, if you have a farm that's 90% efficient, that's totally fine. So I've got this 7x7 farm, and I'm going to right click to close the cursor, and then I'm going to left click on this crop field, and it brings up the crop field window. And right now it's not doing anything. We need to tell it what to plant. So I'm going to click on this question mark. So we have pumpkins and wheat. These are random. You're going to start with 2 different types of crop. In my Let's Play, I had 2 different, and you might have 2 different as well. It's fine. The way that food works in this game, there's different growing speeds for the crops, but one food is one food. And the more variety of food that you have, the more rounded your people's diet, and the happier they will be and the healthier they will be because they have a more like well-rounded diet. But you don't have to worry about like, you know, which food is the best one to grow. You just want, at the beginning, one of each of these. So I'm going to have a pumpkin field right here. And then we're growing pumpkins. And you can see that this work button is on, which means somebody is going to be assigned to working this. And the game automatically opens up 1 labor spot for a farmer to work this field, which you can see in our professions tab over here that we have open. We have 0 farmers out of 1 that are being asked for. So you can assign a farmer by either clicking over here on the professions tab, this little arrow up, or you can click on this arrow right here inside this window to just assign a farmer. And the way that the labor works is that you don't get to pick like which person goes in there. It just takes it from the labor pool. So if there's a laborer and you assign a profession, then some laborer is going to go into that. And it's useful to know, unlike many other building games, your people do not have individual skill levels, affinities, strengths, and weaknesses for doing labor unless like they've been educated, but then they're just better at everything. And so it doesn't matter who does this. It doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter, you know, how good they are at farming. Everybody has like the same ability at this. So I'm just going to click this arrow right here, this teeny up, and somebody is now working this. The question mark goes away. Somebody is going to work this field. Now, if you want to have another person working this, you can. You can just click this arrow right here, which is the number of people who can work here, but it would be redundant. We don't need 2 farmers working here. This is fine. Now, down below, you're going to see the food limit, which is 5,000. This is a fine food limit to set for now. What this means is that everybody who is at a station that produces food will be working until this limit of 5,000 is reached. If we get stored up 5,000 food, then all of these buildings that produce food will stop until we go under that limit, and then those people will return to their jobs. When a limit is reached, a laborer who is a profession, rather, will turn off, and that person, that professional, will become a laborer until the limit is no longer satisfied. Then they will go back to their job. So we don't have to worry about this now, because you can see we only have the 1,800 potatoes that we brought. We need more food right away. 1,800 seems like a lot, and it is. You're not going to starve to death like right now, but you want to get food coming in. So now I have this food coming in right here, and I'm going to close this window and build another farm. Now, you can get disease or blight on your crops, and if they get diseased, then that's terrible for that particular crop on that particular field. But as far as I understand it, the disease will not jump to a different type of crop. So as long as you separate your fields with foods of different types in between, then the disease won't hop. At least that's what I've read. And you also don't need to do any crop rotation in this game. So you can just leave this pumpkin field forever. So I'm going to go ahead and make another 7x7 right next door here. Like that. And this is going to be wheat. Okay. For some reason, I was just thinking, like, did I make this large enough? Is this 7x7? And is this one just looked a little bit bigger, but I think it was just the perspective confused me. Anyway, now I need a farmer here, and I'm going to click this button up. You see, this is now telling me I have 1 farmer, which is good, but I need 2 farmers because this one needs 1. So I'm going to go here, and they will distribute. The labor will distribute and put like a minimum of one person on each field to try to keep everything running. So like if you have 4 fields, but you really want, they're big fields and you want 2 people on each field, if you put 4, it should distribute it so that there's one person on each field. Now, if it doesn't do that, then you need to lower this number down for each field so it's only 1, so it's only taking up 1 laborer. It's usually pretty good about distributing the total workforce across different workstations. So now we're growing wheat and we're growing pumpkins. Now, another option we have here would be to grow an orchard, and we can do that. Like, we could make an orchard if we wanted, and I'm going to do it just to show you what it looks like, but I don't necessarily believe that you need to have a orchard early in the game, because an orchard takes years to develop. It's great to give people food, and it's something that will help with happiness and diet and all that stuff, but it's going to take several years for the trees to mature and to produce fruit. So it's not good in a pinch, whereas these fields are going to turn in food right away. So this area that we're in also, by the way, is like this really strange, narrow area because we have this huge lake in the middle of our map, and then we have this mountain over here. So we don't really have an incredibly optimal place to be, building, but that's just the way that our map shook out. You could restart, but we're just going to go with it. This is fine. And I will build right here another 7x7 orchard that is going to be peaches. So I will give myself one more farmer and we're set. I'm going to close this window. So again, you probably don't need to plant an orchard early. It's up to you. Just know that it's going to take a long time for it to actually produce food. But we're going to have pumpkins and we're going to have wheat and we're going to be happy about it. So those are 2 easy food sources right away. The next thing that I want to do is provide housing for our people. And I'm still have the game paused because I'm just planning out before I send them all on their way to do jobs. So for housing, you can click on the Homes and Housing button over here, and you have 3 options. You can build a wooden house, a stone house, or a boarding house. So when I first started playing, I built wooden houses. I built, I believe, 5 wooden houses to start out with, and it was fine. However, there are some caveats about wooden houses and starting that I'm actually going to try using a boarding house first. The one thing about wooden houses is they take more wood to heat, and if you have a fire, then they're going to burn down. Now, we've turned off disasters, so we should be okay, and there's nothing wrong with wooden houses. They do take more wood than stone houses to heat, but we're not going to build stone houses right now because we don't have enough stone to do that reliably. And we want stone for some other things. We're going to build stone houses eventually. We're going to start with a boarding house instead because the boarding house just lets everybody live in one little space, and it also slows population growth. So you might say, well, why would you want population growth slow? That's bad. This is a unique game. And in most builders, you want to grow your population really fast so you can expand your city. But in Banished, if you grow too fast before you're set up, it will mean the end of you. So if you build wooden houses, that's great, but it means people are going to start having babies, which will grow you perhaps faster than you want. Now, what I ended up doing was just building a few houses and then not building any more so that I could cap my population that way. That's one option. You can just limit the amount of houses that you build, or you can build a boarding house. And the way I think about it and why I'm going to try it in this tutorial is the boarding house is something you're going to want anyway down the road. It's a place where immigrants can come and stay. It's a place where if you're renovating a house, people who are displaced or homeless can go stay there. So it's a good structure to have in the long run. And it's a nice solution early to make sure your population doesn't get too far ahead of itself. So I'm going to build this boarding house right, let's see, here. So when you are going to build, this is our first building that we're dropping in, You'll notice that when it's green, that means you can build it there. Obviously, when it's red, it's overlapping and you can't. I'm going to rotate this using the R key. The arrows along the building's front there show you where people will access this, which gives you an idea of where to build a road. So we want roads built everywhere to help people move around faster. And I'm going to drop this boarding house right here. Later, I'm going to probably move these farms, this storage barn, and this storage pile once the city, I'm talking decades down the road when the city is really thriving. But for right now, I think this is fine. You could put yours further over here or wherever you want, but the shorter distance you can have between your workers and their job site, the faster things will happen. So I'm just going to put it right here. So I've blocked that in. I'm going to right-click to clear this build. The next thing I want to do is start building some roads. So I'm going to click Roads and Bridges, this wheel, F3, and we're going to build just dirt roads for now. This is fine. This will speed up anybody who walks over the road. And we're going to kind of build a road here along the front of the boarding house, and we're going to build a road here, which goes, this will allow people accessing the storage pile and the barn and the farms to move faster. I'm going to build a road that then elbows around here, and this is a good place for us. We could build a road. Yeah, let's actually do that. It doesn't look very symmetrical, but we can build a road right here that leads to our orchard, and that's good. And then I'm going to just unite this like so. I like to build a lot of roads, probably more than I need, just because I think they look good, and it does help people move faster. So now we've got 2 farms, an orchard, and a place for everybody to live. They can all fit in this boarding house. And if I click on the boarding house, you could see that in order for this structure to get built, all of these conditions have to be met. They need to remove a tree that's in the way. They need to bring over the laborers, and the builders will do this too. 100 logs, 45 stone of our 60 starting stone, and then 150 units of building, which is kind of like effort that the builders have to put out to get this boarding house built. And you can see it wants 4 builders to do this job optimally. And now builders have shown up as a job to do. So I'm going to only assign 2 builders for now. And I'm going to use the profession tab to do that. And I've assigned a couple of builders. So at this point, we've got the boarding house going up, we've got our farms, we've got roads, and I think this is a pretty good start for us. And I'm going to just unpause the game and let people go. You see, it's March, but it's snowing. It's super cold. So they're going to go in here and they're going to start getting tools and start going to their jobs. Now, I'm going to pause the game because you can see how slowly they're moving. In the bottom right corner, you can adjust the speed of the game. You can speed up the game by clicking the arrow to the right by going double speed. And let's just do double speed for now. Honestly, once I get going, I play at 10x speed. But you could see everybody has a job to do. People are building the roads. People are going to start hauling over supplies for the boarding house. The farms are going to get planted by the farmers. And once this starts filling up, we can think about some other jobs that we want built. But I like to just build one structure at a time if I can, because I don't want to dilute the labor force, and sometimes people will not be doing what you want as you manage them. So I don't want to confuse them, and I want this house to get built because everybody is homeless. This needs to go up right away. And in fact, because I want this to be built faster, let's go ahead and assign all 4 builders. Let's say, you know what, let's prioritize this. Let's really do it. By the way, if you want, next to the builders or any profession, there's a little arrow pointing to the right, and if you click on this, you could cycle through everybody who's assigned to that job and see what they're actually doing. This could be very helpful if you don't know what's going on. You're like, why are you not working? Why are you not doing something? So you could see she's idling, but if I give her time, she should actually start doing something immediately because there's room for her to be working. Sometimes it takes them a second to actually get on the task at hand. but they're almost done with this. You see it's 54% complete. By the way, if you, I'm going to pause it again. You can see our supplies are going down. The trees have been planted. Nobody is working these right now. Why is that? Because it's not quite time for these to be planted, I suppose. So we're going to just wait. Now, the way I understand it with farmers, I used to manage them, and like if it wasn't the time to plant, I would turn the labor off. If you click on this button for work, you'll see this stop sign appears this above them, and that means nobody's working it. And then that laborer will go do something else. But if you turn it back on, somebody will come back to this job. And it takes them a second to like get back to doing that because they get confused. Now they're back. But if they don't need to be doing anything in their field, my understanding is that the farmers will go do laboring stuff, will do something else. So you don't need to turn these on and off seasonally. All right, so this boarding house is going up. You can see it's 77% complete. It's almost done. And let's get another project going because this is just about to be done. Over here, where you see all of these trees and all of these rocks, this is a good area for us to hunt. Maybe over here. Yeah, look, all these deer. So this is a great place for us to hunt. And we can talk about building a resource node. But before we do that, we're running out of supplies. You can see what we brought. It's dwindling. Most of this is firewood and iron. So let's get some trees. Let's get some stone. And the way you get supplies like this is by using the gather function. So over here, there is a removal and destruction tool key, F8, and it opens up this submenu. Now you could click remove resources, which will get everything, which is fine. But instead, I'm going to focus on trees. So I'm just going to click harvest trees, number 3, and I'm going to then drag a huge box down here. And then wherever you see these red boxes, as I make this green box bigger and bigger, the red boxes are the trees that we're going to cut down. And if I let go, you'll notice that there is this kind of like pickaxe and axe symbol on each of these trees. That means they have been queued up for harvesting, and people are going to come chop these down. Laborers are going to come chop these down. If I don't want that to happen, I can click cancel removal and draw a box that will cancel anything within inside the box. The other thing I want is to gather stone. I don't want as much iron right now. We're going to need iron, but I want to focus on getting stone so we can build some of the early structures. So then I'm going to drag a similar box, so you can see there's a bunch of stone down here to get. So I'm now getting trees and stone with my people, and everybody should have something to do. Okay, excellent. And the boarding house is done. So now everybody has a place to stay, and we are gathering some supplies, which is good. But you could see we have 4 builders, and we need none because we're not building anything. So we could temporarily just turn off all the builders and put them as laborers while we gather supplies. But what we want to do up here is go to food production, and we want to build a hunting cabin to help us get food. And we're going to build it right here. And then next to that, I want to build a gatherer's hut, which will also help us get food. Actually, right across the street from that, I think is fine if I can fit it. Perfect. So the final piece of this puzzle, and this is a very common grouping, is to have a hunting cabin, a gatherer's hut, and then you go ahead and drop in resource production, we will put a forester's lodge. So the forester's lodge will be replanting the trees around here and then chopping down the old ones. And this is good for all of these things, because for hunting, you want trees and forest area. For gathering, you need trees and forest area. And this will also provide us with some wood. So I'm going to build all these places together. Eventually, we'll build some houses and some storage over here too, to kind of have like a little smaller community that just does foresting, hunting, and they have less of a distance to travel to work. But this is fine. You can see, by the way, everybody's homelessness went away, because this will hold 5 families. So this is a good start, and we will use this later. But now it's time to start thinking about building some houses, maybe up in this area, once we get them going. So now we need 8 builders. So I'm going to go ahead and assign a bunch of builders, and I will assign, in fact, 6 builders and let them go up there and do that. They're filling in the roads at the moment, and we're going to want a road going up here to our other area when we have time. But for now, let's just focus on building that up. It is April. And I'm going to speed it up to 5 times. You can see they're chopping down these trees, and now they're gathering the wood. They're dropping it into the storage pile. And then now, it's warm enough for the farmers to start working. So this person is over here doing their job, just tending to this. And you can see here, when they start working, it says 3% yield. That doesn't mean the efficiency of the field, like in Manor Lords or something like that. What that instead means is how close it is to getting to being ready to harvest. Like once this is 100%, that means that you're going to get the food from this field. And let's see how they're doing up here. Is anybody going to our new area? No. And why is that? It's because they're all busy gathering supplies. So they're all doing this job that I asked them to do of knocking stuff down, but eventually they're going to go up here and start dropping off, and they already have. So you could see, for example, this hunting cabin, they've removed, or it looks like somebody's putting some wood over here, some of the supplies, to get us ready for the gatherer's hut, the hunting cabin, and the forester's lodge, which we have blocked in up here. And yes, you can see people coming. They still have to clear this area. So our wheat is going in really fast. Our pumpkins are growing. Now, I have to explain this because it blew my mind the first time I saw it. You see, we're down to 300 stored food. We had 1,800 potatoes. You might be like, oh my god, what is happening? How could this have happened to you? Well, I'll tell you what. They put all the food in the boarding house. They took firewood and potatoes and put it in here. So that's what happened. So you don't have to worry about the food. They have it. This is just the surplus of food that's stored, but we want this number to be much higher. I like to have this number in the thousands so that I know for sure that everybody's got food, and if there's a shortage, we won't starve to death. Now, I think it's worth mentioning too, as I go with this guide, I've never done this, which is to build a boarding house this early. I just read it in a guide on Steam, and it seemed like such a cool idea, I wanted to try it. If you instead want to just build 5 wood houses, which is what I did with my Let's Play, that also works just totally fine. And I think there's arguments for doing it either way. Some players don't even like the building house at all. You're going to find all kinds of advice all over the place about this game, and it just speaks to the greatness of it, that you can play it in different ways, and that there are disagreements. I think this is a cool way to start because I do want to plan on having immigrants and giving them a place to live easily, and then also upgrading eventually our wooden houses to stone and not having to worry about people being homeless. But we don't have tornadoes, so we don't have to worry about their homes getting destroyed, so it's not completely necessary, but I like it. It's an interesting idea. It's like a, we're starting out as a commune. We're all in this together. We've been banished. All right. And now you can see they are doing a good job over here on these tasks, eventually the children will start to grow up and join the workforce, but they're not old enough to do that right now. It's fine. The pumpkins are coming in. The wheat is coming in. This is going to take quite some time, but that's okay. You can see the foundation for the hunting cabin. And if you want, at this point, again, totally up to you, you could even go to 10x speed. And just because we have all of these projects queued up, we want these to be done. Now, we've had 3 babies. So the boarding house slows population growth because it limits only 5 families total can live here. And there's a limit to how many children each family can have. But they have already... like, they could still have children, and now we've gone to 20 population. Okay, so the hunting cabin is done, and the question mark means it needs a worker. So I'm going to immediately assign 1 person to hunt. And I'm going to start building a road up here to make this easy for everybody for traveling, you know, like this. And we can try to kind of connect this road to our main road, just like so. There's more advanced ways to build roads that are more efficient, zigzagging, other techniques that I've read about, but I just make things simple on myself and just make them straight like you would expect. And now we want a gatherer. Now, remember, I'm going to take off all these builders. We don't need this many builders. And I'm going to assign 1 gatherer. I was talking about food production. Gathering is an insane way to produce food. It's the best way to produce food early because it produces a ton of food and it produces 4 types of food. Gathering gives you roots, berries, I believe it also gives you onions and mushrooms or something. It gives you even more than just this. Like, it's a ridiculous quantity of food that it gives you and a variety, and it's such a strong way to get food, especially if you can get people living out here and get storage here so they have less room to travel and can concentrate their working day on just gathering. It's beautiful. Now, what you want to do to maximize your hunting cabin is put it by where you see deer. Remember, we saw all those deer, so that's important. But also trees. You want trees for both of these. So this is why we have the Forester's Lodge. And don't chop down any trees in this area, in the circles of these buildings. Just keep the trees up here for those buildings to thrive. The forester will chop down the trees automatically, by the way, and provide you with wood. So there is that. Now, speaking of providing us with wood, how much firewood do we have left? We have 171, which is good, but we're going to need more firewood. So it's going to be something that we want to do right away is build a woodcutter. So I'm going to go to resource production and build a woodcutter. And we can just build them right here by next to the boarding house. Because we want this person just basically working all the time to produce firewood. Firewood, you go through it really fast. You can sell it pretty well once you build a trading post, but it's just a resource that we need to have. So we're going to get that blocked in. And look, I'm pausing it. Our population has gone to 11 and 9, so now we're up to 11 adults. So we have another worker. I'm going to slide some people into builders and just keep 2 laborers. This is something that, I had to get used to when playing Banished early, as opposed to some of these other games, which is you're always looking at the professions, and you're kind of sliding around people from different jobs into laborers and out of laborers and turning things on and off and managing and pulling levers to get the right balance for your time. You want to look at all of your resources here. You want to make sure you have plenty of food. Look, we already harvested this field, so all of the pumpkins are inside. It's autumn. These already got planted, grown, and harvested. There's 0% yield, which means nobody's doing anything in this field until spring again next year. This is getting harvested, and we have still a ton of potatoes, but now we have all of this. You see, we have pumpkins, and we have potatoes, and we have wheat that we're starting to harvest here. We have enough coats. The tools are doing okay, but those are things that we're going to want to supplement as well. And the orchard, again, it's not doing anything until a few years, but it's going to be great when it does. So you want to look at your wood, your firewood, and your food. And then you want to keep an eye on clothing and tools. You'd like to keep clothing and tools at like 50, but we don't have a system to even build them yet. We haven't started that yet, so that's not going to happen for a moment. Okay, now we need a forester. I'm just going to put one forester in. I'm going to take away a couple of builders. And then this section is going to start taking care of itself. So they're going to start hunting and gathering and producing these resources, but it's in our interest to save time. We need a woodcutter as well, so I am going to take away the builders and just give myself one woodcutter to get firewood going. And a storage barn, if I want to build one, you can see it takes 16 stone and 48 wood. So let's build one up here to kind of save their time so that they don't have to traipse around everywhere to drop off the wood, the food that they gather, and that they can just do that right there. So we're going to build that. Now I'm going to slow the game speed down a bit and pause it. Okay, so we're still at 11.9. We have a decent amount of food. And our supplies are holding up. We're going to build a barn here. We're going to start building houses here eventually to kind of keep a little community of workers in this area to make life just move more smoothly. But you can see we're running out of stone, and we are running out of wood. So we're going to need to assign some more clearing. So I'm going to go ahead and chop down these trees that are right by us. And I'm going to gather stone. If there's any here, there's a ton. So perfect. So we're just going to get all this stone and these trees too. So what we've done in this episode is secure living space, get farming online, get our primary resource collection node for wood, food gathering, leather to make clothing. Hunting is what allows you to gather leather, which you turn into clothing at the tailor. It also gives you venison, which we can eat for another source of food and another piece of variety. We also have firewood happening, and we are situated in such a way that we aren't going to starve to death, and we're not going to freeze to death at this moment. We even have some extra clothes and tools, but that's what we're going to need to start working on. We're going to maybe build a fishing lodge, some more living places. We need to start getting a tailor, a blacksmith. We're going to want to drop in one herbalist at some point to get herbs for medicine to keep people treated, because we don't have any of that coming in. And we'll get into that in the next episode. Everyone, this is going to need to be a beginner's guide series about Banished, because it's such a involved game that there's a ton to explore and explain. The best way I have found to do these guides is to really do it in depth, in detail, by talking about everything as it emerges and building up the town with you, so you can follow along and see things how they happen in real time. And I could talk through my thought process of why we're doing things and really explain things in a way that's easy to follow. I hope you have found this to be useful and fun, and I will check you in the next episode. If you have any questions about Banished, please post those in the comments below. I'd love to help you. And if you're a veteran Banished player and you'd like to correct any mistakes that I've made or share any tips or tricks for new players in the comments below, that would be fantastic. Just do so in a way that's not too far in the weeds, not too in-depth for somebody who's never played this game before, to help everyone kind of get into and enjoy it. Because I'm telling you what, once you start playing this and you can have fun with this and not worry about starvation and stuff, it's just such a great builder. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Take care.